started here. Today's session is online registration and verification moving. Oh, did we hit the recording?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Online registration and verification, moving your district online from paper to collect, or from paper collection with Jim Newton and Tashawn Christie. So,
thank you. So, can you guys hear okay without the microphone? Outstanding. Thank you. So, I know Three Rivers, Robert here, is doing online registration already, so you get your little pirate candy. And I know that Lynn Benton Lincoln, but how many of you guys bring?
What?
4? Well,
we can share.
Okay, you can share. Anybody else venturing into online registration yet? 4. Okay, so how long have you been doing it?
Registration for all kinds of things. I've been working on that kind of thing for about 8 years.
8 years. Okay, and how long have you?
This was
First year?
third year.
Third year? Anyone else trying it yet? Okay, well, you guys will feel free to, how long?
Second year.
Second year, right on. Feel free to interject and add your own lessons learned for us. Want to try and make that part interactive. I'll share with you our Beaverton journey. We started in 2015 researching systems, and then last spring we went live with online registration for the first time, and then we entered the grand beast, the coup, which was what we call verification in Beaverton School District, where we had all parents go through and verify their data online. So in our district, you can our verification form is 4 pages. So if you were a family of 4, you got a lovely 16-sheet packet, and you can imagine the redundancy there and that's just the way it was for years. And people just accepted it and went on. But it is a bit of a challenge for people that don't like change. They like their paper. They like their stack of paper. But when you think about things like security of that information, or what do you do when Johnny or Susie has a new health condition? And I don't know about your district, but in ours, people were still keying those forms into October and as late as November. And when you don't have that key health information in the system, it becomes a problem. So I covered some things in a session on Wednesday, and I was with EduPoint, but this is really vendor agnostic. So I'm not going to talk about the product at all here, and I don't know about Tashawn. Nope, just principles that we went through during the process. One of them is accountability. It is very different when a secretary has a nice stack of registration or verification forms on their desk versus what it's like in the digital world when you can query your system. And it's like one of the things we were taking a look at is this first column called waiting. That was the waiting queue. So they submitted a verification, and now it goes into their queue, and those things start stacking up. First day when we launched verification, we had almost 6,000 parents get online on the system at once. So is your web servers ready for 6,000 people to get online in the system at once? We were not quite there.
How many students do you have?
How many students? 41,000.
Wow.
So, but what happened was many of these piled up. It's like everybody turns their verification form in at once, and now go enter that data. For secretaries, they had to verify that data. Some of our high schools at one point had almost 2,000 verifications waiting in their queue because the parents responded so quickly. So what of course, the higher up chiefs, the superintendent, deputy superintendent, were asking, how is that going? What's it like? What's the response? And it was like, well, it's overwhelming, and here's a report, and it shows. It's like, why aren't they processing those? We want them done, now. It's a completely different world than the paper world, and they want to see quick response. So we started sharing this spreadsheet with all 53 schools. We sent it to all the secretaries and principals at all 53 schools twice a week to see how they were doing. to let everybody know how they were doing. Well, there's of course a lot of peer pressure there. It was starting to get to a point where it was ticking people off. They were like, well, you know, we're slow, but everybody has a reason why they're slow or an excuse why they're slow. Things are busy. You got parents calling in, things like that. But so just letting you know, something to think about as you go through that. Some critical success factors for us. You definitely want to train at least 2 people per school. For us, the elementary level, we initially started with 1 person in an elementary building, and it really wasn't enough. So we only have 2 secretaries in most elementaries. You know, the principal secretary and what we call a secretary 2 in Beaverton, who's the main data entry person. They really couldn't handle all of it on their own, at least first year. All the questions, getting parent accounts activated, things like that. Getting parents online in advance of go live. So one of the mistakes we made was the first day that secretaries came back after summer break, we sent a school messenger blast to all the parents in the district. If you don't have your ParentView account active, please get it active, because that's going to be the way you're going to do your data this year. So first day back, thousands of calls to the secretaries. They were overwhelmed and a little unhappy with us. But we got through it. We had encouraged in this prior spring, hey, if your parents don't have an active online account, do what you can now. And to be honest, they kind of ignored us. It's like, we'll deal with it later. They knew it was coming, but they just didn't sort of accept or get real proactive in it coming. Testing the software over and over. I don't know about your vendor. Ours, it's not perfect software. When it came to us, there was a lot of setup, you know, and even just, okay, they just entered first name in a new registration. You go through the whole registration. Does first name show up in your SIS? Yes or no? And so we had issues there. Documentation, a lot of how-to guides. You can find all of those under parents on our website if you want, the BSD website. And if you want further materials, you can email me or contact me after. I can share things with you. Communication, getting people involved. Our community involvement in communications department, we stayed hand in hand with them. I'm kind of a manager of application development and systems. I am not a PR person. That's not my role in life. I have some input on that, but as far as the message go, but that's their expertise. So we went hand in hand with them, helping us when to communicate, how often to communicate, who to communicate with, things like that. And one of the big ones this year, since we went live, is working on that last mile. So I'll explain that shortly. So we we missed most of Roundup last year because we went live late spring in May. But even between May and October, we had 1,200 new student registrations through the system. We didn't know how well or how widely it would be used. We didn't do advertising until late in the year, but people who came to the district found it and loved it versus filling out paper. So that was the new student registration. Then in the verification side, which was the big coup, I had goals. Could we at least get 50% done? But we actually hit that 80.56 number and over 31,000 students verified. In our district, we only ask that each student have at least one active parent account, because parents will share them, probably happens in your district. They don't each have to have an individual account. So we shoot for at least one account for a parent, but we went from about 12% of the students having at least one parent to our number here over 80%. So we were really pleased. For a district, our economically disadvantaged rate, free and reduced, is 37%, just kind of another figure. And then the big one are people that process the sheets of paper. That was that added up to 120,000 sheets that we didn't have to print. So that was time for rejoicing. And you certainly get your results back a lot faster than you do with paper. Now at the end we did. So we gave them until October 1st. We kind of stayed on this timeline that used to be the old paper timeline. For schools that had over, say, 150 that didn't use the process, at the central office, we printed extra verification forms for them, shipped them to the school got them out to collect those. So we did do some printing. We're really trying, on that prior slide I talked about the last mile. So those are the kids or families that didn't respond. And you think, okay, those are all the kids that don't have internet access, they don't have a parent account, etc. Actually, when we looked at those students and looked at the demographics, 3/4 of them, actually a parent did have an account and did have an active one, but for whatever reason they just chose not to do it and didn't want to go online. But there's nothing we can really do about that. So yes, we finished faster than ever. Family engagement increased. One of the worries was at the elementary level, they're not bringing in their paper forms at the start of school. I don't get to give the mom a hug and welcome the child back and hand them a little bag of goodies and all that kind of stuff. It's very important. That kind of interaction is very important at the school, but it's definitely different in an online world. One of the options in our system is you get to upload everything. So you can upload your birth certificate, your immunization history. If you have an old IEP as a parent, you can upload that. Question?
I was just wondering if you have a breakdown of that 37% of being reduced, what was the percentage that signed up?
That's a great question. We had almost 70% of that group use the system. And what shocked me was our highest free and reduced elementary was the fastest to respond and had the highest percentage of parents that responded. So you through some of that you're kind of guessing, why did a certain group or school not get involved? Is it because they don't have internet access or whatever? We did a lot of things like working with our public libraries. We gave them, we kind of went down there and educated them a little bit. We're going live with this. So the Beaverton library system, we gave them stacks of a couple hundred flyers each that would walk a parent through how to get to the registration page and verification and how to do an account. And so we showed them at least how to get to the home page on the Beaverton website so that if somebody came in to do that, they would have some knowledge of how it worked. Question?
Along the free and reduced lunch line, did you have a direct connection with OD, or is there a form on the online registration?
We didn't. We don't have the meal application online at this time.
And then just a couple of questions, actually, and maybe you'll get into one of these later. But how do you handle split families first? And the second question, which maybe is more pertinent to this, do you keep a device in the office and train the staff to walk people through the process if they come in and just stop and say, hey, I couldn't figure it out, or didn't have time, or whatever?
Yep. We fired up anywhere between 2 and 10 Chromebooks in kiosk mode for parents to use inside the office, depending on the size of the school and number of people coming in. And sorry, the second one?
How do you handle split families?
Oh, split families. Yeah, as long as one of the parents who has legal guardianship goes in and does the paperwork or the online paperwork, then that's how it happens. Some of those families, both of those parents, because they're separate homes, have an account. Once a verification starts, the other parents kind of cut off. They can't get in and do it until the other one is fully accepted. Then if there's any changes the other parent wants to make, they can go in and do that. But custody things we don't allow change of, because we did have a few cases where mom goes in and whacks dad, and dad goes in and later and whacks the mom, tries to delete them, and we just don't allow that. So
You still do that if you get a court document, I assume?
yes,
Yeah.
we follow all the legal stuff.
You maintain
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
just some of the other things. The last one, staff augmentation. So again, I don't know about your district, but when we have all these paper forms, sometimes we hired extra classified staff to come in and help schools rekey those. So we did not have to do that at all for processing online verifications, which was another nice savings. When you try and pin a dollar amount to what this gives you, it's very difficult, but that's just one area that we did not have to do this year. So we talk about separate processes that when we set this up. So our first goal was to get out enrolling new kids. And you really have to work through your terminology in your district and your vendor. Our vendor calls it an online registration system, but that means three things. It means enrolling new students. It means a whole different process for verifying if you just want to make some changes, like at the start of the year or even during the year, if you just want to go in and change your phone number or something like that. And then what's called we call a re-enroll, which is, okay, so they're at your district when they're in K through 3, and then they left for a couple years, and then they're coming back as a 7th grader. That's a re-enroll for us. And all three of those have distinct and separate processes to think about what kind of questions you're going to put in front of parents. The verifying the active students as well. We have a little bit different process, communication, some different web instructions that we put together if you're just going in and making changes versus, hey, this is my first time in the district and I got to submit all this other stuff like documents and how to upload those versus versus just a verification at the start of the year. Some lessons learned, some other ones. We created a screen-by-screen video for parents to go through. We offered, we had 53 schools, so we had a lot of people to train. We probably did 20, 25 sessions for secretaries to come in and just learn this process. Our method there was we actually had them pretend to be a parent in our training system, and they went through the whole process as a parent, doing both a new registration and then conversely, after it gets saved and processed, ran them back through and did a verification. There's multiple ways software systems can verify data. You can take them in to your registration system and say, okay, just make any changes you want and leave it that way. Or our particular package allows you to force them, and we did this last year and we're going to do it again this year, to force them to visit every little prompt screen and go through every emergency contact and make sure each one of those are still associated with that student, rather than leaving it up to them to go in and say, I got to go to this particular screen to delete this one emergency contact who moved to Colorado, so we don't need them anymore. But we're going to have them walk through all of the screens. And again, the verification screens are very different, somewhat different than the registration screen. So that's one of them. So we had this deal in Beaverton last year, it was this one thing. What's the one thing that the IT department's going to do? And it was a big one for families and secretaries, which was the online registration system. But then the business office had their one thing. And guess what? It was a new online fee payment system. And so we had two of these big system changes go at secretaries at once, right at the start of the school. And it was pretty overwhelming last year. So this year we're looking for a much smoother year, and they have a year under their belts. Enrollment forms, we had to go through school by school. Is this school or program eligible to use the process? We do not have lottery or anything like that online. To get into some of our special schools as an application process, we don't have that here. We're just using it for the general registration at this point. It's a lot of work to take your paper forms and convert them into a digital format. So, there's the product comes with a bunch of canned screens, and you're deciding which one of those I want. Yes, no, delete. I want to add our custom instructions to that. And then once we got everything built, oh, by the way, we converted that into 8 different languages. So folks would be able to work with that as well. We had some forms, these last couple, what we call the Multilingual Department intake form, and then ODE had this lovely, hate my guts, language use survey that they could never settle on the format. But we ended up creating custom fields for those inside our SIS product, and then we were able to add those fields onto the registration form itself, which is a great savings, another sheet of paper that we can take off the table that they don't have to turn in. Yeah, those translations, we did it in, all the instructions are in 8 different languages on the page.
How did you decide on those 8 languages?
They're kind of the most used ones, top ones in Beaverton School District.
Complaints from the others that aren't getting that same?
Not at this point. One of the lessons learned there was we partnered with our Multilingual Department, and next to their department is one of our IT training labs. And we give them free unfettered access that whenever a parent comes in and they want to talk anything, we have trained all the Multilingual Department sort of secretarial administration staff to work in online reg and learn our parent portal. So if a parent comes in, they can help them in their language, immediate access to a translator, and can walk through this. And they've actually gone a little further than that, which is really kind of cool. They set up workshops and they advertise those to the different language communities, and then said on this particular day, come in and translators available, sit down with you and walk through your whole packet.
And they go through that in the English people.
Right, yeah. The parent process, again, here's like kind of small up there, I get that, some instructions off the paper form and how we brought those into the bottom of the page here for what they should be doing on the particular form. Parents, if they don't have a scanner, a phone, or something like that to take a little picture to scan in, say a birth certificate on a new registration or a proof of address form, something like that, they can check a box that says, I'll bring it into the school instead of attaching it to my record. But by and large, 85% plus figured out a way to get it attached. It was really kind of cool. So there was a lot of less work to do. The digital transformation. These are just some of the pages within the product and getting there. We wanted to get as much as we could and consolidate as many forms as we possibly could onto this, and without having to fill out multiple enrollment forms. I think our enrollment packet, our original one, was 8 pages. 2 of those pages are instructions, 6 pages are filling in all the buckets. And so we're able to get all of that on here, which was great. Again, these paths, enrollments versus verifications, really, even though we tried to be as clear as we could and we've changed all the language again, some of the parents who were just, quote, verifying their data mistakenly went down the enrollment path, which in the end creates a duplicate student, right? Which then we had to delete those out and get them over into the verification. So it's really, and we had one dad, bless his heart, it's just him and his daughter, and he ran her through the new enrollment process 3 times thinking he was doing it, and he got denied, and he was told why he was denied, but he didn't read the message. He just knew he got denied. So he did it again, and we finally got him down the right path. That terminology, a registration, a verification, re-enroll, important. We use communication to parents. We've modified some of those. We tailor messages depending on what kind of submissions coming in. We heavily use School Messenger to broadcast to our parents, please do this. We advertised in advance, it's coming. We sent another note, it's now open. About 4 days later, it's open, you haven't done it, but we shorten the group to only those parents who haven't done it. About 4 more days later, we figured out who still hadn't done it, and we put all those students in a file, sent a particular message. We tailored each one as we went down to a smaller group of people, trying to let them know and emphasize how important it is that they do this. Modifications of norms, schools, that's a big office change. You get secretaries who have been doing paper forever and don't like it changing, but some of the people who are most against it became in the end some of our biggest fans. We still had a few naysayers, but.
Let's get a quick question about that piece. Back in the ESIS days, we had that piece in ESIS where you could make modifications to student records, as a parent logged in. So we were having this conversation in our district recently because we're going to go down this path. But the concern is that office staff get so busy that they see a change come in, right? And they're like, good, yep, I'm going to accept it without doing the due diligence of making sure the data is accurate. And I know that's a training issue. I totally get it. I'm just curious if you've seen.
Part of that depends on the package that you purchase in this and what it offers. In ours, there's various little alert flags depending on what kind of information changed. So a little red cross comes up if there was a health information change. If there was a guardian change or an address change, another little pop-up. If it was just a standard run-of-the-mill, played around with some emergency contacts and things like that, there are no alert flags. And for the most part, people just trust that data and accept it. If they see something kind of odd, it gives them everything that the parent submitted is in a list, and then anything that was changed is highlighted in yellow on a verification, so they can quickly see those and blow through them.
Minimize that.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, Jim, so when you use that different terminology, you had a verification, so parents were registering, quote unquote, their now fifth grader that was a fourth grader, and they just had to verify information. So that's the terminology you really pushed out there, rather than saying you're doing enrollment, right? Is that something? Because we ran into that same issue where we had parents that would register their kids multiple times, or maybe create a new account when they didn't need to.
Correct.
So there'd be duplicate students in the system, and so there was some of that issue because really they're already in there. They're coming back from the next year because they're now in the next grade. All they have to do is verify.
Right, and that's the terminology we used. And on our paper form that we gave them when they came back to school and we did the verification process, that was the title at the top of the form at the time. But you think they would remember that was...
Okay, so you were using that prior?
Yeah, we were using it prior. So it's really hard to settle on what you're going to call it, and then everybody has to stick to that message, and the secretaries. So when parents call in, everybody's using the same language, because people got into the words re-enroll or updating or whatever, but in the end it was that verification.
So mid-year though, if a parent goes in and changes a phone number and address, does it then go back to an approval process on the administration side?
Same process. Even mid-year they want to go in, they can use the same verification process and just update data. Add another phone number, add a new emergency contact, make changes like that.
Is it live right away, or does it have to go through your office staff to approve that?
Nothing goes live right away. Every one of these has to go through an office staff clicking accept. Yeah. We did involve, I mentioned our multilingual department earlier. We talked a lot with our nurses who had grave concerns over the fact that they go through, if there's any particular health condition changes, they go into the screen and they edit it and they put it in a format that they like. Well, we expose that to parents, and parents go in, well, that's not right, I'll make some changes here and stuff like that. Well, the nurses started hyperventilating because somebody messed with the way it looked, but they needed a notification that they did make a change, and so that was, again, working with them as part of that. Office staff training, we had 54 schools. We started with one person per school, but quickly found out you really need at least 2 people attacking these in the school to process them. Lots of documentation changes. We've completely revamped everything from the first year to the second year. We've created better web instructions. We initially posted some PDF instructions. Now we've translated that and just made web pages out of it. It's a lot easier. Office staff training, a little more in the training sessions, we train secretaries, what if we tried to go over a lot of these? What happens if dad changes something and mom comes in and changes it later? We tried to cover as many of those as we could. We did some debriefing visits and an office staff survey. So once we were into October, November, okay, we took a breath. We wanted to get some quick feedback from how did it go big first year. So these were just some of the items we brought back. Losing that face-to-face relationship. Well, people still come in and visit the school, so we were able to work through that. Parents lack clerical accuracy as office staff. True in some cases, but we found such a greater increase in data quality from this. Just for example, in the system you have a parent who has an elementary, a middle, and a high school kid. Emergency contacts were entered potentially at 3 different buildings by 3 different secretaries, and they didn't care. They just entered them. So when you went through this the first time, let's say a parent for a kid had 2 emergency contacts. Those 2 emergency contacts ended up to be triplicate because they were 3 different records. And then some of those records had this emergency contact had this phone number. This one had the same phone number, but they also had an address and then different information, even an employer on another one. They were able to consolidate those down to 1 emergency contact and associate it with the students. Question?
Is transportation accessing this information? That's one of the biggest things that we have is the complaint from the transportation that the addresses are not entered correctly by the registrars.
We don't have that problem in our SIS because we use grid codes that were set up and actual addresses that they use. We populated that from a GIS system, and so we work hand in hand if there are any issues there with our demographer and our transportation department. So one of the great things about the system is when a person starts to enter, like my address, 17965 Southwest Granada Drive, I start typing, and immediately below that it starts putting in the possible addresses. So they just have to click one of those, so they don't even have to type the whole thing.
Do you have issues where parents are in, like, transferring in district? Maybe they live outside the district. Do you allow any of that? How do you manage that?
We do, but if their address, home address, does not align with that resident school, then we tell them, sorry, you got to go through the district process of doing a proper transfer, which is an application form, and so.
Do you still have on paper?
That is still on paper. They can, if they know what their future address is going to be, they can register. But if they are still going to want to do that in-district transfer, they're going to have to do a form to do that because they won't be able to select a school.
Well, we ended up doing that. We still would require that form to be completed, but we ended up having them put in the school's address that they were applying for.
Oh.
It would come in the queue.
And you get all the data that you could.
That way we have the data, and then if it's accepted, they could approve it, and then.
I like that. And then just change the address in the end.
And then just change the address in the end.
Yeah.
Is there a verification process on that, on the address, or do you just accept it at face value?
We accept the address, but parents, whenever they change an address or first time registering, have to submit a document associated with that, a proof of address document, some kind of utility bill or something that has the address on it.
Is that online or is that
They upload that online.
Okay.
Yep. Just one more page of these. People thought information security. It's not as. It's actually more secure to do this in the web, and data accuracy increased. People were concerned changes are not instant in the system, but it still gives the opportunity for the office staff to really be in charge of that acceptance. We don't just let the data flow right in. There's no way we would do that. Why go digital at all? Here's the biggest challenge for anybody that hasn't done this. Your parents are expecting this out of districts, I think. You got to really take this seriously and move it here if you're not. A summary of the survey results, kind of what you would expect. Attitudes varied across the district. Some open-minded, some still adapting. Yes. We're working with our vendor hard for progress and improvements in the software itself, making great leaps there. Huge data cleanup. It is the best data we've ever had in our district by going through this. And it's kind of fun. Last year in October, the school board recognized the team for the work, and it's always nice to be recognized for that. Tashawn, I'd like to switch over to you, sir. Yep, go ahead.
I want to know if you have a feedback mechanism for parents, and if you do, what have you heard so far?
We didn't do an official survey of parents, but we talked to quite a few. We took the opportunity to go to some back-to-school nights and things like that to engage parents in it, and they were pretty darn excited to say, finally, I'm so glad I didn't have all the sheets of paper to go through, and it made it a lot cleaner for them, and they could do it faster themselves. We had comments from, I could sit at home, or never happened. I did it from work, updated just on my own time kind of thing. Yeah.
So mostly positive.
Mostly positive, yeah. Question?
Yeah, I got a few. You keep a hard copy of the emergency list in the building?
Yes.
Okay. Who changes the form?
Who changes what form?
The online form. Do you have a team that comes in and approves, we're going to add this line, or we're going to this?
Yes, our IT department, schools, if they really see something that needs to be added, we'll put in a ticket in our system and we'll review it to whether or not it needs to happen. Each year we have kind of an enrollment and student family handbook committee that gets together as a district in the central office, and we bring in people from schools to talk about, do we need any field or data changes. Sometimes the state of Oregon hits us with things, and we might need to change some inputs that way as well.
Who's hosting this?
It is locally hosted in our district with our the package that we settled on. We looked at three, one with our vendor, and then we looked at 3 other packages which were really robust. And to be honest, if I had a choice, I would have, if I wanted to pick the best looking package for my constituents, I would have selected a different package. But the key driver for us was integration. And I did not want to pass Excel sheets or other data back and forth between the two, because that was going to be multiple people working way too hard to shuttle data back and forth. So we went with an integrated solution, a little less robust than some of the other mainline packages, but good enough for this.
Okay. Thank you. I may have missed it earlier, but did you do a couple pilot schools first, or did you do all of them?
So we started with a few pilot schools for new registration. So we picked like 6 schools. Office staff came in, we trained them, we lit up online registration for them. Oh my God, the response was unbelievable. Parents are like, I heard Susie can register their kid for Highton, but we can't over here at Kinnaman. Why not? And so we had that, and we had quite a response from the secretaries who, once they saw it, secretaries started talking, and they're like, this is going to save you big time. You want to get in that. So we started mid-May, first pilot. By the first week of June, we had all the schools doing it. So we did about 6 to 10 schools a week, literally, yeah. As soon as we trained, and we were doing 2 to 3 training sessions a week for the first 6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did each of the schools have a custom form?
Each of the schools might have a little custom form, like at an elementary school, for example. They might ask questions like, how does Susie react to group situations? Things like that are about classroom placement is what that comes down to in the end. We did not include those forms in our process. We included all the district forms, anything that's sort of ODE compliant, And then there's just a couple, like the free and reduced meal application. I would like to get there someday, but right now that's in our meal system itself, part of that process. So they have a separate account there to do that. Yeah.
So when they complete the online registration, does it email out to like everybody in the, like all the special ed, lead secretaries and whatnot?
The secretaries in our system get a little notification icon at the top of their screen, and there's a count number on that. So however many they have in the school, the little number is going to show how many they got.
But it doesn't go out to like, you know, you don't get like Johnny who's at this school, but you know, this secretary gets.
They only get the ones associated with their school. Yeah, they can't see the other ones. In our system, one of the things they have, if the student registers at the wrong school, you can pass that registration to another school, and as soon as you pass it, you can't see it anymore. Sir?
All right, so we are, as Highline Schools, my name is Sean Christie. I am the Executive Director of Technology Services. I'm responsible for student information, project management, and several other things done by anyone else. So part of my job description is just basically doing things. A little bit of difference between our two processes, when one of the reasons why Jim went first is that we're actually in the midst of year one of implementation of our pilot, which means that our process isn't going to be as clean as Jim was, but this is more like, again, we're making sausage right now. So you're going to see the ugly bits, or the messy bits, as I like to call them. Interrupt anytime, raise your hand, ask questions. That'll help me extend this. This is probably going to be fairly short. But let me tell you about our district. We have 19,500 students approximately, 37 sites. One of the things that I don't talk about normally is our pre-reduced lunch count. The reason being is because it's high enough to where it doesn't even really matter. We're just going to treat all of our kids as if they can achieve high, and then, you know, we're going to get them there. So not something that we even bring up or talk about. Not overly important. So our promise is that every student is known by name, strength, and need, and we make sure that everything that we do encompasses this idea, right? So that we know every student by name, strength, and need. And part of that is the registration and enrollment process. Our strategic plan goals are to have a school culture that is safe for all of our students, to make sure that we include how they feel about their days, so a lot of SEL type stuff, as well as making sure that we tie into our community so that we understand children's needs. Growth and mastery, digital media literacy. We want to make sure that our students are ready for the world that we're doing our best to prepare them for. Bilingual and biliterate, that will correlate directly to our enrollment process. And one of the things that I'll point out a little bit later, in high school graduation, we had an audacious goal to graduate 95% of our students. So one thing that I'm going to point out, and hopefully...
Sorry, man.
That's
all right. Hand up.
One thing that I'm going to point out, and hopefully no one finds offense to this, but my presentation isn't nearly as serious as Jim's. No diss to Jim's, but not even close, all right? I am the type of person who I like to put a lot of analogies into this, and I wanted to make sure that I did something that at least resonated with me, for one, and in an effort of clear disclosure, I found out I was doing this about 2 weeks ago. So... This is what you get. But again, ask questions, and we do excellent work. So what I did was I put it into a epic fantasy, online enrollment in epic fantasy. I'm all into epic fantasy. I have a really long commute, so I listen to a lot of audiobooks. And so this is my influence for what we're trying to accomplish and trying to do. So our tale, or our agenda, our righteous quest, our purpose, the reason that we went through the things that we went through, and what we were trying to accomplish at the beginning. That's what we're going to talk about. Kingdom on the brink. We walked through our current state processes to make sure that what we tried to put in our online enrollment actually somewhat matched and also gave us the opportunities to improve what we were trying to accomplish as a school district. Fraught with peril, the planning piece. There are a lot of bad things that can happen in online enrollment. A lot of the things that Jim pointed out can turn really, really bad, so you have to make sure that you talk to stakeholders and such. We'll talk a little bit about that. Torches and pitchforks, implementation. Office managers, office staff have an opinion about the work that they do because they're front line, right? They understand every bit of usually every family that comes in the door. They understand which students need a little bit more assistance than others, and they create these relationships. And we need to make sure that we included that in there in a way that didn't make the office managers, office staff, and registrars revolt. And then live to fight another day. Our lessons that we learned in order to make sure that we incorporated those things into our wider rollout of the system. So, a righteous quest. Our purpose in doing student online enrollment, we started out with K enrollment. So we started out with just kindergartners because there were some things that we had that were very definite. Like we knew exactly what day in Washington online enrollment started for K students. It was the day after Martin Luther King. So I believe it was the 16th of January, the 17th of January was the day we needed to start. So it gave us a definite start date. And the software that we were already using, we had used the previous year to do lotteries. So we have 3 schools, Aviation High School, which is one of the schools that's co-owned and interlocal between Seattle Public Schools and our school, but it resides in our school district. It has a lottery system where a quarter of their students get brought in by lottery. So we use the same system that we use for online enrollment, which is School Mint, by the way. That's probably one of the few times I'll mention them. We used that system in order to do the lottery automatically, to where it was transparent to parents. They could see exactly what order their students were in and all that. So we had some familiarity with the system. So starting with K made it to where it was a limited pilot, and we knew that we would probably get between 300 and 500 students, which made it manageable, and we can do our lessons learned with minimal impact to families. So we made sure that from the very beginning when we communicated this project to people that they understood that this was for families. The reason that that was important is because, again, I'll go back to office managers, office staff, registrars. They had opinions about what should happen as part of this process. But at the same time, if we told them that, yes, it's online enrollment, but you were still going to have to enter data, some of them didn't necessarily feel good about that piece. And then others, they didn't want to enter any data. They wanted it to go straight from the online enrollment into our student information system. But the importance of verification is huge. We wanted everything to be verified. So we need to help them to understand that the reason that we put this is for ease of use for our families. Again, when attitudes and things like that come up, we wanted to make sure that they understood that, yes, families are central to what we're trying to accomplish. So all the language communication is really going to be focused towards how easy this is for the families, which means that it might be a little bit more challenging for office staff, but we will help to assist you as much as possible. And so we're also leveraging this as a tool for family engagement as well, because there's a lot of, again, when we redo or when I talk about the process piece, we know that every school had a process for intake of students, and we wanted to make sure that we matched that as well as possible and then got out all the information automatically to parents. One of the cool things about the system that we chose is that we could do customized messages. So if a student enrolled, they would automatically email them saying, welcome to our district, here's some important information. And considering it was just K, they could have all their enrollment stuff, all the things that are specific to their school, and just to make sure that once they were onboarded, they felt like they were part of our community. Kingdom on the brink. We needed to make sure that we looked through our current state so that we could avoid any pitfalls that exist in our current process. So one of the things that would have made this process a lot easier is if we had centralized registration, because then we can make sure that any data that was entered by a person was pretty standardized. Because as anyone knows, any system that has a paper-based system, all kinds of data can be entered into that paper form, right? And hopefully you have a process for replenishing your paper forms and getting them updated. Someone owns the form, because that was one of the challenges that we had was who owns the form? Yes, the form lives in technology services, but that's just because that's where we store. And, we have all the archival rules and all that. So we have all the forms, but someone else needs to own it. It needs to be joint owned by, special ed, needs to be joint owned by health, by, whoever handles your enrollment at the high level. So with the paper-based form, we had been running the same type of process for 20 years. The only difference is that we would add things as the state required, because the state changed some of our race and ethnicity a few years back, so we had to make sure that that was incorporated and those type of things. And then additionally, one of the challenges that we have with paper-based forms that we were really trying to fix with the electronic form is the fact that I don't know how many of you deal directly with registrars, registration, enrollment, like deal directly with. So you have a paper form. You have to pick one of the 7 federally reported races, right? And then when you're selecting an ethnicity, and you select multiple ethnicities, when we report to the state, you can report up to 4, right? When you're looking at a paper form, how do you tell which is primary, which is secondary, which is right? And then think that you're reporting all that to the state. You're using some of that data internally, and you're saying that this percentage of our students, right, are achieving at this level, and that might not be accurate. And that became very clear to us immediately. So when we went to the online form, we can be very clear about primary, secondary, and make sure that we have all of our race and ethnicity categories straight so that later on when we were reporting that data out, we were reporting as accurate as possible. School enrollment forms, they were ordered individually by schools to a print shop that exists outside of our district, which means that they can order them by themselves. So again, back to that whole ownership of the form. If the form wasn't updated in time and the school's process was to order the forms in November, but whoever was updating in February, they can be ordering old forms and then not getting the data that's necessary in order to make sure the school district is able to operate in the way that they're supposed to operate. Our process, real versus imagined. When we sat down with several of the office staff and several of the central office people, they had varying recollections of what the process was for enrollment, which made it challenging for us to tie that to an electronic system of workflows and people that are supposed to go in certain places. So, and then the unseen school partners, this was a big one for us because once we started with the process, we reached out to all stakeholders, got very limited response. We put out our first iteration of this. Then the nurses came back and were like, hey, did you know that there was this immunization form that it can be filled out electronically, but our school district is requiring people to sign it. So then we had to figure out how that process worked. A cool thing about verification in this system is since it's all digital, you can take a picture of your form and then upload that as part of the process so that they can verify online all of your documents. And then as well, one thing that I forgot to mention is that the School Mint allows you to do an email address as well as a cell phone. Because considering our demographic, we have people who don't necessarily use computers so often, but pretty much everyone has a cell phone. So you can register using your cell number, and then it will send an SMS or everything. You can communicate through that to the school, which allows us to collect more cell phone numbers for parents. Fraught with peril, our planning portion. So we went through a very, very detailed district process review of what our online enrollment, and we found a lot of things that were not necessarily being fully addressed that would help us to determine workflow. One example is our DL and partner schools. So we have a program at Highline to where we have full DL elementary schools, dual language elementary schools. So there's 5 of those. And so they're dual language, English and Spanish, and we have one that's English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. So in those schools at the elementary level, all of your coursework is taught in both of those languages. So for one reason or another, we have families who are in these boundary areas, because another thing that Schoolment does is as soon as you enroll, it verifies that this is your home school. So that's the only school you can enroll in. If you want to go through the other process, you basically have to report to the district office and take whatever that next step is. So there's some students and families that don't necessarily want to be in those dual language schools. So they would rather be in one of the partner schools. So for each dual language school, there's a partner school that says that, hey, I don't want to necessarily go. And then there's the opposite part of that process. So without doing that deep walkthrough, it would have been challenging to know how the workflow, how those schools connect, and what the expectation is for parents who want to enroll in one school or don't want to enroll in the other school. What process do they go? Review of individual school processes. So just as Jim was describing earlier, there is a process of when a parent walks in, You want to get to know them. You give them your packet, and their welcome pieces. And we had to get people used to the idea that you can still meet with these families. We're not restricting that. What we're trying to do is have their first interaction with the school be, all right, I've registered with you, so that when I come in, I'm already part of the community, and you can treat me as such. And we had to make sure that we kept that clear. But one thing that we made sure that every school did was put a link to the packet. They digitized their packet and then put a link to it somewhere on either the school's website or the district website, so that when we sent out that automatic reminder or that automatic enrollment piece, it linked back to their packet of papers, and they can print it if they wanted to, or save it if they wanted to. And it sounds like a small thing, but that was actually it went a long way to personalizing the experience from digital and making it feel like we thought directly about them. And then departmental point people. One thing that we put together was a survey that went out to all the department leaders to say that please talk to your staff about what has been missing from our enrollment process, our enrollment process, and what do you feel should be added so that we can add those things to the form. Because when it's digital, for some reason you can squeeze a lot more onto a page, or you can just filter the rest of that stuff out and get to the bare bones. And we wanted to make sure that we knew exactly what information our special ed department needed for those students, if anything, right? Or if we wanted to include things like a PE interest, right? Or if we wanted to include things for secondary students to say that, all right, are there additional courses that you would like to enroll in our district that might not be available at your school per the course catalog? So gaining additional information so that it would help us with things like master schedule and other things that we're trying to do. And how does online fit into the current process? We also made it abundantly clear that we aren't just shifting to online. This is a service to families, which means that we're not just going to force you into online. We're using it as an option. So if, especially, and this becomes very clear during the summer, because our schools are only required to have staff on site at a school for 1 day each week over the summer, which really squeezes down. Again, like I said, we don't have centralized enrollment, which means that only gives 1 day. And considering our parent population, it's really tough to get off of work sometimes just to go in and do the online registration. So online really opens it up for our demographic. So torches and pitchforks, implementation. Again, office staff. That's actual imagery from office staff can go the distance. They're really advocates for their families and for their students. So we wanted to make sure that they were taken care of through this whole process. So we made sure that we listened to their culture, and we made sure that their onboarding process was as clear as possible. So the vendor that we went with, they had Udemy courses for office managers. We also asked them to create a pared down version of the directions and instructions for them, because our office managers really felt like this was an additional thing. So we wanted to make sure that we kept it as tight as possible. We had 30-minute online PD sessions that were live with a trainer. And so we signed them up for multiple of these to fit their schedules, and we recorded each one of them. We put them on a shared internal support SharePoint site so that they can refer to them later. And we made sure that we signed up at least 2 people in the school that were responsible for knowing this before we could sign off and giving them their accounts. So one of the things that I would recommend is definitely creating specific PD. Don't necessarily rely on if you do go with a vendor, don't rely on what the vendor put out, because you want to tailor it to your school and your school culture and your district culture. And also create a centralized site so that you can capture all that, so people know that they only need to go to one place. Communication was definitely targeted and specific for our office staff. But we also did not want to forget our families. So we over-communicated on our website that, hey, online enrollment is going to be a possibility for you. Hey, online enrollment is going to be really cool. You'll be able to do wonderful things. And made sure that our emails and responses were tailored to whatever our community was, translated and all of those other things, because we deal with our top 5 languages directly, but in our district we have approximately 87 languages. So we can only really focus on the 5 because trying to translate to 87 languages, it's tough trying to translate to the 5. So imagine trying to make that happen. All right, live to fight another day, lesson learned. And by the way, this is an artist rendition of our middle school that is going to be built. And so we treated this as a good opportunity to review and clean up old practice. Again, every time you have this major shift in installing something new, really treat it as an opportunity to look at what you've been doing to decide whether or not it is going to be relevant and needed going forward and good. There is no such thing as too much information. Just make sure it's targeted and concise. Over-communicate these things, because sometimes, even if you've said it 10 times to someone, it'll be the first time they heard it on that 10th time. So just make sure that you continue to communicate and don't ever check that box off. And then consider other processes the system can be used for. Transfer requests. This one came up huge because we have a lot of transfer requests in our district. So we wanted to use our online enrollment process as the transfer request process to say that I, as an elementary school student, would like to transfer to these other schools and have it through the system rather than people having to report to the district office, ask for the transfers, a lot of paperwork. And we just reviewed our whole transfer process and realized that we needed new transfer codes that were a little bit cleaner so that we can figure out exactly what the mobility in our district looked like rather than what people were using up to that point. And as well, understanding that it was taking so long for the transfers to be processed only because of be processed by an individual, only because our process was a little bit slow and old, and also, again, because of those codes. And SIS integration. If it's not part of the SIS, or whatever you're implementing, ask for a list of references. Because when we first started ours, we were told, all right, yeah, you're going to use this form, this CSV, as long as the columns are aligned, you're good, right? So we tested that in our sandbox and realized that we had a ton of duplicate students because they said that, oh yeah, it'll verify whether or not you have dupes, and no, never happened, right? So we learned I'm glad we have a sandbox site. That's just one thing. So if you don't have a sandbox site in your student information system, request one, really, because it'll help, especially with this piece, with anything else that you need to test. But yeah, ask for, if you get that list, ask the people for how big of a lift was it for you to get that student data into your student information system, right? Did you have to go to just straight manual for everyone, or were you able to push things directly in? So that's it. Like I said, I was going to go fairly fast. Jim covered all the details, and mine was a little bit more there. So, question? Yes?
You said it was optional for the parents. The first question is that just the first couple of years and then it'll be mandatory, or do you plan to keep it optional forever? And the follow-up to that is, what did you see as far as percentage of parents that actually did the online enrollment this year?
So we plan on keeping it optional forever just because I think that that's what serves our community better, right? I know it'll be easier for school staff if we just went online, but again, it was for families, and that's why I emphasized that at first. So we're going to keep it online until we just have this shift to where no one is just doing paper anymore. But we don't expect that to be for a while, considering our families. And what was the second portion?
Just the percentage now that's actually using the online system.
So for kindergarten enrollment, I'd say 40% of what registered last year at the K level registered online this year. Yeah, and we still had the 60% who wanted to do the traditional method, but that's okay. We're still getting the word out and still getting. But it was a pretty positive experience for the people that did. We had a few challenges with that immunization form that I told you about, and that was just because we got the information a little late. Yeah. Yes?
Question for both of you. At the same time that you're doing registration, you have sometimes ASVPs and shorts and this and that. Is that happening at the same time, or two different websites, or that people are doing this with?
So, I didn't quite understand.
The paper registration that we have, the third week of August.
Oh yeah.
We have to have computers for the office managers and so on. Parents show up, they do the registration, and then they sign for all the things that they have to sign up for. shorts, this gym equipment, blah, 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 all the things that go along with it. And so they sign for it and they pay for it there. And so the question is, do we have, being an online registration, something that is online also for them to make all the payments on the same form, or is that a separate system?
For us, it's a separate system. So we use in-touch receiving for our online payment system, but our SIS students and the parents go from being in our SIS to in-touch receiving. So again, this is where I'll just small segue where we cleaned up a whole bunch of data. Dad logs into in-touch receiving and can't see all his kids because we found out we had a duplicate father and another one. So once we got all that settled, then Dad could see all the kids. But as soon as they are enrolled in our SIS and accepted, the next day they have an account in touch receiving and can pay all their fees.
Yeah, and ours same thing is in touch receiving. Yeah, we kept them separate because the fees that would have been through our other system were a little bit higher than what we would pay in in-touch receiving as well. And rather than passing that on to the parents or eating that up ourselves, we just figured that we would keep it the way that it was. Made it a little bit easier.
One question for you guys first, who have done this maybe longer or are doing it now. Like Tashawn said, in Beaverton still we have a form where they could still either pick it up at a school or they could click a PDF, print it, and type it all in and bring it in. Have any of you eliminated that in your process? You guys did?
Yeah, we had one form last year, one family, one form, and it was a language issue in that sense. But what we did is we installed a permanent machine in the office, and we have office staff trained to walk people through the process. We're actually using a combination of RenWeb and fax tuition collection on the private side. Gotcha. So for ours, our fees flow directly into fax. They pay them on the spot, basically, and it goes into the fax account. At least it's on the account at that point. But yeah, we eliminated paper completely.
The only other district I know is Three Rivers down south.
The one that was right here. Yeah.
Nathan, well, he was, or not Three Rivers. Sorry, it was Eagle Point. Eagle Point, they don't even post online the PDF or anything. The form doesn't even physically exist anymore, and they force everybody into online. We haven't gone there yet. There's feelings both ways.
Yeah, we're going to be installing Chromebooks at each one of the schools, and then training office staff to walk people through so that can be their primary entry method as well.
So, question?
Well, we're our third year into online registration. I greatly appreciate hearing both to understand the struggle, because it's a struggle, it's a process. And so we went through exactly what you guys have gone through. Now, several of our districts ended up getting rid of most of their forms and putting it in our consents and release tabs. So that was a really lovely thing about being able to get rid of several of them, or just cleaning up their system a lot. Now, one thing I want to know that you guys, we were a little bit surprised at how much parents couldn't spell on the new enrollment. So they're not capitalizing, they're misspelling, they're writing it in like they text. How did you clean up that process? Did the vendor already have that already planned for? Because that kind of messed up our district person table when they posted it.
They'd have to accept it with non-caps or go in and change it before they get accepted.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And we ended up fixing it by having our programmers make it capitalizing when we could.
Yeah.
But how did that took us a process of, oh my gosh, people, this is a different paradigm shift, and now we have to deal with people not knowing how to spell.
Yeah, we just assumed that was going to be part of it, like going in. So it's one of the things that we planned for to be able to do the capitalization piece if needed.
So you did that in advance?
Yeah, we did that in advance, and we also communicated to parents to really pay attention to the red squiggly line underneath stuff, right? But at the same time, with some of the names, all right, there's always going to be a red squiggly line because my name always still shows up until I add it to the dictionary. So it happens, yeah.
What?
I know. All the Tashans I've met this week, it's like, yeah.
Two questions. One is your form, or do you plan to, if not, is it available on exclusively a laptop, like desktop form?
We are still a desktop because it is not a responsive page. So you do need to be at a Chromebook or larger tablet. You could go as small as an iPad here and it would probably still render okay, but there's so many pages. Computer's best or a Chromebook or something like that.
Yeah, our form is fully responsive because of the vendor, and that's one of the reasons we picked them, because again, we knew that a majority of our people were going to be using smartphones to connect. And then we designed a lot of the form fields as if someone was going to be using a mobile device. So we tried to keep the drop downs to a minimum size so there was limited scrolling and those type of things. So.
Yeah, the other question I had was, did you find that do you find that when you deploy the form that it cut down on those last minute, in particular, kindergartners coming in? Did that reduce that rush of like the week before school, or did you still kind of see that happening?
Last year, since we started late in May, we still had a little bit of a rush. But I can tell you that a lot of the schools this year, so one of our big lessons learned since we started late last year was to really go hot and heavy, starting in December actually, working with schools to get a good roundup plan. And because it's a little different, because we got all of them to not hand out a form. They got to hand out their other school propaganda, but not an enrollment form, okay? So we talked about the package they were going to deliver to parents and then to go online and do that. And what we have seen is about 90% of the parents who attended Roundup, who are going to attend next year, already have their enrollment done online. The kid's been accepted, and they can see it. It's just amazing. One school already is at what their predicted 100 or kindergarten number was going to be for next year is like 97 kids. They already have 95 online enrollments done, no paper.
And we have in August, we have a program called Kindergarten Jumpstart, which helps them to prepare for, this is what it's going to be like to sit in a class. This is what, your typical day is going to look like. And so in order to be involved in that process and get all the information ahead of time, we really emphasized to them that we wanted them to get out in front of that as much as possible. And so since this was our first year, we're not sure exactly what level of impact that's had with the online enrollments, but we have seen a pretty steady flow of kindergarten enrollments. We still expect a big chunk, right, for that first year, but as they enroll, we're going to remind them that kindergarten enrollment starts January, usually just considered the day after Martin Luther King Day is when kindergarten enrollment starts, and then from there you should start so that you can get all the kindergarten information so that you'll be ready for the summer.
This is kind of a question for Jim because I believe we're on the same platform, but how many, this might be a guess, man hours or people did it take to actually get the system, all those fields and documents and everything on the back end where you needed it to be?
In IT, working on it full time, we had one sort of developer person who was manipulating all the pages, putting in all of that information, working with the vendor, and then we had we had basically two and a half what I call system support staff who were working on the documentation because, like Tashawn, we didn't take the vendor documentation and expose that to parents or school staff. We wrote our own, so that I don't have an hour, but they probably spent about 2 months fine-tuning and putting all that together. It was not small, but for anyone on our platform, we're happy to just flow you all our Word documents or parent flyers or whatever as examples. Even if you're not on our platform, we'll still send it to you. Get an idea for what the feel of it's like. You really want to get a feel for what it's like as a parent. I'll tell you can do this. I ask that you do it in current year, but you can go to our site and you can pretend you're a parent and find an address in Beaverton School District and start typing and register your kid. You'll see all the different prompts that you walk through as a parent, what it's like, we're going to flush all those out here at the end of the school year, so I'm not worried about the data being in there. Just don't click submit at the end and add a kid.
Yeah.
You can see what it looks like.
And you can do the same with ours. Actually, if you go to School Mint and then Highline Schools, you can just Google those and it'll bring you to the link. Even if you click submit, if you didn't put an address inside our district, it's going to say, nah, man. It doesn't exactly say that. It says something different.
That'd be funny though.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing that.
Last question. It's
I know I should make it say that.
We do a lot of, as part of the registration process, acceptable use policies. We always have a few parents at the beginning of the year that want to opt out of that. Do you guys give an opt-out option onto your enrollment?
We pulled it off, and they have to actually submit a piece of paper if they want to opt out of some of that directory information. Last year, we had it in the verification process, and it was too easy for them.
Yeah.
So every year we flush those flags, and nobody's opted out. And now we've gone back to you need to visit the school and request that.
And we also include the fact that usually those parents also want to do the photo opt-out as well. And we really want people to come in, check the box, and sign that just to make sure, because you never know and it's hard to keep track of. So.
And we have a couple of those photo things and what it really means, and we really want the secretary to explain that to the parent. Like, are you opting out of everything, including your class composite, which people got pissed when they saw that their photo didn't show up with all the other kiddos or in the yearbook or whatever. So.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Jim. Hey, brother. Thank you. I think he's going to want to shut that.